He was an important part of our lives. Harry played the trombone in the Air Force Band for a time, and he was a great lover of Stan Kenton primarily, Artie Shaw, Benny Goodman, Billie Holiday, and just about everybody in the 40s. Music that I also enjoyed, and we very much enjoyed together and held a lot of memories for us. He absolutely loved Brazilian music in his later years, and also modern pop and so on. He taught me how to drive, stick shift that is. He loved to fly, and because of that we took a lot of weekend flights. We had a Beechcraft Debonair plane, and we flew a lot together on the weekends. But those trips induced me to learn to fly, because I was a little worried about flying with my little 3-year-old daughter with him. So I learned to fly, and he was a very, very proud husband when I got my private pilot's license. It was unfortunately not a very lengthy time for me to fly, because unfortunately some friends of ours crashed our plane. And that was the end of that. Later in life, Harry took up flying model airplanes. But that lasted in Brazil and in Florida for a while, until he had to drive from Aventura to Markham Park, or he was going also from our, in Brazil, in these lengthy trips. And for me it was a hassle also, because he kept in my dining room table, he kept the airplane. Because it was the only place you could keep such a huge wingspan. So that wasn't very happy for me. Then after that, he wanted me to learn hand gliding with him, which I totally refused. That was out of the question. So he was very unhappy that I didn't go and that he didn't do it by himself. And he was a very generous man who helped a lot of people. He really wasn't looking for any praise. I remember he had a refrigeration technician who died in Ecuador, and his family apparently didn't care for him too much. So Harry sent his body to the US, arranged for his funeral, and basically took care of Hampic was his name. Then he met somehow, because he really wasn't a friend, some American who got in trouble with the law in Ecuador. And Harry was convinced the man was innocent. So he hired a lawyer for the man and paid for the lawyer. And that was that. Then we met in a trip to Quito. We met an American journalist who was traveling in a motorcycle from Alaska to Buenos Aires. And he was in Ecuador by this time. Guess what? Harry invites him over to Guayaquil. And guess who came to Guayaquil for a few days? This man who I forgot his name. But that was the way he was. Very friendly, very generous. He loved dogs. He loved to tell you about his 27 St. Bernards, because his parents had a couple, and they apparently had 2 litters, one after the other. So at one time or another, he had 27 dogs in the house. I couldn't believe anybody would live with 27 dogs, until I met his sister, who confirmed the story and showed me pictures of these millions of little dogs all over their place in their house. So it was true. Then we had, let me see, I wrote some things down. We had a dog, of course, in Venezuela, in Ecuador. We had parrots. We had monkeys in Brazil. We had guinea pigs. We had little chicks that became chickens eventually. And I was always looking for somebody who was willing to take these animals out of my house, except for the dog, of course. And he had a lot of friends. He loved to play poker. And for years He had a weekly poker game with expatriates Americans in Brazil and in Ecuador. So the wives were not invited. This was only a man's game. The wives were supposed to leave the food, the beer, the chips, go off to the movies and let them play poker by themselves, which they did. Then he had a pilot friend who loved to play crap in the casino. And that was about 6 months of crap playing in my house, basically going to the casino every weekend. Until fortunately this American pilot left Ecuador, and that was the end of the crap games. He was a very warm and loyal friend. He had a lot of friends, particularly 5 fellows that he grew up with, and they went to school together. He put himself through university. He graduated from Duke University, and he joined the Air Force and became a lieutenant in the Air Force. He was a very loving man with my family. He owned a very successful shrimp company for a while, and he had some shrimp boats. And all the boats were named after my family. I mean, I had the Jackie for Jackie. I had the Candy for our dog, whose name was Candy. I had the Mary Grimm for his sister. I had the Harriet for his niece. We had the John D for his nephew. Sorry, Robert, you were not born yet. Oh, and there was a Carmen also, of course. But unfortunately, his shrimp business eventually, I think he got involved with some unsavory characters who misunderstood his Midwestern roots and trust in people. And I think they took him a little bit for a ride, and he lost a lot of money with them. So he became a little disheartened, sold whatever was left of the business, some of the boats, and we moved to New York, where he wanted to become just an employee. He was tired of having his own business. And when he became a seafood employee is when we started moving around, living in Panama and Brazil and Venezuela and whatever. He was a loving man, but with his Midwestern roots, he did not know how to express himself like we Latins do. He never called me darling or honey or dear or anything like that. The best thing he ever did in his latter years, he started calling me Carmencita. I don't know why. I don't know how this came about. I think it came from Gabriel's wife, who used to call me Carmencita, who calls me Carmencita. And I think he sort of decided that maybe that's what he should call me. So lately he was calling me Carmencita a lot. But that was about the nearest thing he did for me, which was pretty nice. He remained curious throughout his life. He was not a very sportsman, but he loved basketball, and he followed, of course, the Duke games, and he followed the Heat games and those things. But he loved to watch political news on television. From becoming an avid Republican, became an avid Democrat, and argue with Matt about politics all the time.
Oh, yes.
But that's about it. I think he led a very adventurous life, a very happy life, I would like to think. And I'm sure I will miss him a lot. And my life was never boring with my husband. And that's about all I can say about him. He loved the family, and was always very gracious with my mother's family and my father's family. And I want to thank everybody for coming to spend this time with us and honor him. I see a lot of pictures of him throughout our years, off and on. Anyway, thank you so much.